Again, the camera's
I'm sorry.
I'm just warning. No, it's a sign of how much you trust me.
Oh my God. Okay. I actually really trust you.
I know.
There's no reason for me to feel like I don't, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. I'm scared now.
Well, we've had the conversation
trust
about
you.
what you do with your... Yeah, and I trust you.
That's right.
But we haven't had our conversation about your post-production team and with the power.
Being so nice.
You know, my power will increase threefold when we are finally in front of a green screen, because then I could literally put you anywhere, and it'll be where in the world is Juliana Valente. Not to make it totally 90s here, but considering we're still on a 90s set.
We're kind of 90s feel.
Check out the bed that's going on behind me, kids. Oh God, this set of 5 women wearing the same dress, I'm in love.
Awesome.
As we geeked in the last episode, we're still in love with it, and I think I'm gonna pretend that this isn't like just a function of our schedule that we've planned, that we're like, we just love this set so much, we're just gonna keep doing episodes here. It's not like I have to do all of this now because we're about to lose Juliana again for a few weeks. That can't possibly be what's going on there. Totally is. So this episode I'm very excited about too, because we're talking about adaptations of works of fiction to the screen. And Juliana, what are you doing?
Can you say that in English though?
No. That was me doing the anti.
You're so method.
No.
You're.
That's the right rule of improv, right? No.
And no.
In all seriousness, what adaptation have you chosen today?
I would like to talk about Chaucer, and specifically The Pardoner's Tale.
I like that a lot.
From what collection of tales, you ask?
Who's this Canterbury I've heard of?
From the Canterbury Tales.
Canterbury. Who
Canterbury's.
toured around singing songs.
All right, so The Pardoner's Tale is one of the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey or Joffrey. You can choose, I think.
What feels right to you?
What feels good for you? Is he a Jeff or a Joff? I don't know. By Geoffrey Chaucer. Now, for sake of time, if you don't know what the Canterbury Tales are or why this is important, maybe you could pause this and go do a little Wikipedia.
Look it up.
On it. But the short story is the Canterbury Tales are a collection of poems. Pilgrims are making a pilgrimage. It's during the Crusades.
Yes, they do.
They're headed to the Holy City, and each of the characters on this little caravan gets a chance to tell a story, a tale.
Yes.
So the one I want to talk about today is The Pardoner's Tale. Now, it's important to know the order that this comes in because it comes right after The Physician's Tale, which is, again, pause it, go Wikipedia. It's very dark, very...
No tap solo?
Bad. No tap solos. Okay. No, it's humorless. And it comes before The Shipman's Tale. But it's prompted by the host's desire to hear something that's a little less depressing.
I think.
So the pardoner, he's a religious figure and he sells religious relics. Although he's actually a con man, and he's very upfront with that in his prologue, that the relics are not relics. The bones of the saints are actually pig bones. And he's a snake oil salesman, and he introduces himself as one, and then he proceeds to tell a moral tale. The tale itself is an extended exemplum. Exemplum, you ask? What is an exemplum?
I think we need sheets to pop up on the screen while you explain. Go.
An exemplum is an example or a model. It's a tale with a moral or example attached to it.
Ooh, this is going to line up with what I'm talking about later.
Yeah.
I'm excited now.
Okay, good. It's moralizing. It's illustrative. Illustrative. So here's the summary. 3 troublemaking friends spend their days leading lives of pleasure, which involve breaking a good number of the church's deadly sins. They drink, they swear, they gamble, they flirt, they feast, and they have this, they enjoy this life of just
rock and roll.
Uncaring debauchery. That's what these three guys are all about. They're out one day in Flanders, as you do, and they hear a bell toll. They go to discover why it's ringing, and that a man is being buried. They discover that the man is their friend, and they inquire, how did he come to die? And they're told that the killer is someone called Death.
I don't know why that.
Why is that funny?
Well, because it's like, I don't know. Maybe it feels a little obvious, but the killer is Death. You could not be deader.
This is an exemplum.
I got it.
Yeah, okay.
It's all about the teaching and the moral children.
That's right. The killer is someone called Death, and they vow to avenge their friend and to kill Death. And they're told by an old man where they will find him. They'll find him underneath the tallest oak tree in the forest. When they reach this tree, there's no sign of Death. So they dig into the roots. And this is a metaphor that a lot of writers will really enjoy. They dig into the roots and they discover a large hoard of gold, enough to make them all rich for the rest of their lives. And true to character, they decide that before transporting the gold, they must celebrate. And they draw lots to see who's going to go into town, because they're in the forest, who's going to go into town and get them their wine and their cheese and their,
their wine and their cheese.
And their...
There are other things that you have with wine and cheese.
So the youngest is chosen, and he is reluctant to leave the other two with this hoard of gold. But he does. He goes to town. He gets the wine. He gets the cheese. In the meantime, the other two have a conversation that's along the lines of, why split this gold 3 ways when we could split it 2 ways? But unbeknownst to them, the youngest is already thinking that way. The two decide to kill the younger when he comes. So they kill him. But what they don't know is that the youngest man poisoned the wine with rat poison before he got back to them. So they die a horribly painful death after they kill
no honor
their
among
friend.
Thieves, baby.
That's it. So they are now enacting the old man's prophecy that they will find Death under the oak tree. And the tale and the prologue are both concerned with what the partner calls his theme, radix malorum est cupiditas. Greed is the root of all evil. The relationship between the tellers and the tale is distinctly significant in the partner's tale, because the partner is an enigmatic character. He's portrayed as really grotesque in the opening prologue, and he's aware of his sins. He's very open about it, and then he turns around and preaches this morality tale. So Chaucer describes him as draught of corny strong ale, which arguably suggests that the character candidly speaks as a result of his inebriation. So maybe that's why he's so
Loose
upfront.
lips in the ships, they think.
This tale becomes and it carries with it important themes that we think of when we think of the American Western novel. 1927 novel, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, is a novelization of this tale, and it was later turned into a 1948 film of the same title. Rudyard Kipling in The King's Ankus, a story in the second Jungle Book, is this tale. The Tale of Three Brothers, a story featured in the Harry Potter universe, is partially based on the partner's tale. I'm going to describe a movie. I'm going to give you the brief synopsis. This is a game.
I'm excited. I like games.
Okay, I'm going to give you
especially in my bedroom. Our bedroom.
Our bedroom that we share. All right. So here's the movie. You name it. Let me get through it, okay?
Okay.
All right. 3 men who are comfortable with breaking both legal and moral laws for personal gain each discover that a huge hoard of gold has been stashed away. 2 of the men have previously worked together on a long-running scam where one handed the other into the law in return for bounty money and then freed his partner, often to the point where he was going to be hung. They've fallen out and taken in turns to try to kill each other by the unusual tactic of making them walk an unendurable distance across a burning desert without water. By fortune, They meet the dying man who buried the gold, and each receives a vital but incomplete piece of information as to where the gold is buried. Suddenly, they need each other again. Without the information that the other possesses, they have no chance of finding the gold. The third man is independently on the same trail when he finds himself in a position of power over the other two. He tortures one and extracts that person's information and makes contact with the other. It leads them all to the cemetery and the possibility of them all becoming rich. Or it leads to the possibility of betrayal, double dealing, and the best Mexican standoff in the history of film. For more than a moment, it seems quite likely that in search of riches, they are all about to kill each other. Name that movie.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's it. Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
How much of that can I use copyright-wise?
You can.
Excellent.
You can. I already looked it up.
Yay.
Cormac McCarthy is an important American writer as well.
Right.
Blood Meridian is maybe one of the top 10 most important American Westerns.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
I'm not super steeped in Westerns, but no, that's a name that rings many bells.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So we could play another game, but we're not. I'm going to go straight into the book that he wrote in 2005, No Country for Old Men.
I've had a feeling this is where we were going to end up eventually, which makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he started writing No Country for Old Men as a screenplay or play, and then he went back to making it a novel.
Yep.
And then after it was a novel and successful, he came back around and it became a Coen Brothers film.
It's so interesting. I mean, because I did a fair amount of writing in college as well, and it's kind of defining for yourself what that story you got in your head is. It's like what medium is going to tell it best. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it comes down to, do you have really strong mental pictures in your head, or is this something that you feel you could describe really well within text? And or is it something that could live in both worlds, depending? So it's where you start with it. So it's interesting that he went back and forth on this. Mm-hmm. And I'm familiar with this material, and I love that this is tied back to Chaucer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the characters in No Country for Old Men.
Please, yeah.
All right, we've got Llewellyn Moss. He's a welder and Vietnam vet in his late 30s who stumbles across a drug deal site with really bad consequences, and he appropriates $2 million that he finds among the dead drug dealers. So there's one character. The next character is the drug dealers themselves, which we think of as like a collective character. Then we have Sheriff Ed Tom Bell. He's the main protagonist. He is a World War II vet who oversees the investigation and the trail of murders, even as he struggles to face the sheer enormity of the crimes he's attempting to solve. And his reminiscences make up the narration for the novel.
Yep.
Okay. Carson Wells is another hitman, formerly a lieutenant colonel from the Vietnam War, who's hired to retrieve the money. So therefore, we already have like our main stereotypical Wild West characters. We're very familiar with the lawman and the guy who needs help. What we don't have is a villain.
Yeah.
But we do have one of the character. Yeah. Anton Chigurh, the main antagonist, is a psychopathic hitman. He's in his 30s, and his eyes are, in the novel, described as blue as lapis, like wet stones. What's different from other Westerns is that Anton doesn't, as the villain, has no place in the rest of the world. He doesn't really fit in with the other characters. He doesn't live in their same world. He's just kind of hovering and moving, constantly moving through it. But true to the Western genre, the whole story is centered around the possession of a large sum of money, which is also, again, pulling right from the Chaucer. Yeah. And with the exception of Sheriff Bell, all the characters have a common goal, which is to take possession of that money.
The money.
You've got this Chaucer's tale that's been translated to a novel, and then we want to translate the novel again into film
to make it compelling. I mean, not that it isn't compelling, but for a different medium.
The compromises have to be made. So there are going to be some differences from the novel to the movie. And one key difference is the focus. The novel belongs to Sheriff Ed Bell.
Right.
Every chapter begins with Bell's narration, and then his narration counterpoints the action of the main story. And the film does open with Bell speaking. Most of his dialogue that's in the book has been condensed, and it turns up just in other forms, other shots. And we talked about Bell's backstory. He has a whole backstory in the novel. We take out the backstory in the film, and so the film is simplified narratively, but it gives more of the characters an opportunity to shine. But sometimes the changes to fables and novels and then to film, it's not necessarily a gain or a loss, but it's dictated by just simply the shift to film.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
No Country for Old Men feels a lot more like a fable than a realistic novel, and for a good reason. The subsequent film in 2007 plays closer to realism than the novel. Many viewers, audience members, reviewers of the film express the feeling that they can't figure out if Anton is a figure of pure evil or not. And in some ways, that is a result of the film. Those who've only read it might not see him as a cosmic force. They might see him as a literal character. But in the film, it's very easy to see him as this cosmic force. He's got the rules that he follows, right? He's not making any decisions. He's always on the move. He doesn't seem to actually exist in that world at all. It's really difficult to establish when you have a live person playing a cosmic force.
Even if it's someone as, I don't know, actor with a capital A as Javier Bardem.
As viewers, we have a really hard time seeing a person and not imputing motive to them. Yeah. And as a result, the film does become something altered from the print version. Yeah. And it's almost a different genre. It's less fable, more naturalistic narrative, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's not a failure. It's just an inevitable product of a change of media.
Exactly. And also, first of all, I'm going to just completely out myself because I have to explain what I'm wearing. Beauty and the Beast is kind of my fairy tale high watermark. Like when I was 7 years old when the Disney adaptation came out of this story, and I was the huge fangirl for Jerry Orbach and David Ogden Stiers and Angela Lansbury, and I loved every song in it, and it was right in the sweet spot of Disney's Renaissance. And it was, as an adaptation, though, Disney'd all over this fairy tale. As they do. Yeah. Disney took it, I mean, they've massaged other fairy tales to a higher extent and made it look make a further distance than Beauty and the Beast. Like, just ahead of it, Little Mermaid bears some very little resemblance at times to the real fairy tale. So I guess I'm saying I could have gone for more of a leap. But there's enough in Beauty and the Beast that was changed around. Because Disney definitely has a style about them. And actually what's even funnier is now this is going to turn into No Country for Old Men, Beauty and the Beast, and Frozen. Because I'm going to connect all of this. But yes, Beauty and the Beast, it's a tale as old as time, or at least as old as 1740. It originated in France, Belle et la Bête. The basic idea of the woman falling in love with a monster only to have her love transform him, literally. And that idea translates to a lot of different. It's been adapted.
I was going to say a lot of women's fantasies.
Yeah, well, and the moral stuff in it, which I'll get into in a minute, and how this thing was originally designed and what it was supposed to teach you. So the original Beauty and the Beast was written by French novelist Gabrielle Cézanne Barbeau de Villeneuve. I told you I was going to French as much as I could here. I am German and English. I am not French at all. The thing, I'm just going to tell the story as it was originally presented to us. Belle, who is a lovely French maid, she's one of 6 children in the original story. They live in a mansion They're actually doing quite well.
Not a provincial town?
They are not. It's not a provincial town. She has a bunch of siblings, and her siblings are indeed quite unkind to her. Because she is the youngest, she has the most simplest desires out of life. While they are all about what daddy can give them. The boys want weapons of war, the girls want fine jewels.
Okay, I know what she wants.
She wants, yes, well, because this was restored when Disney recently live action adapted Beauty and the Beast, and I think it's very smartly adapted.
Yeah.
But Belle, so things start to happen to the family. So her siblings were unkind to her.
Is she still motherless in the...
Yes. And we could do a whole episode on the role of mothers and the loss of a maternal figure to a character and what that symbolizes.
Ooh, I like that.
Literature.
Season 2.
Big time.
Yeah.
And hard times start to fall in the family a little bit. His tradesman fortune, in fact, Dad, Maurice, loses his fortune when their trade goods sink at sea. So the family is forced to move into a small cottage.
Okay.
And so Dad has to travel to make the money. And so when he's off on one of his trips, and he asks his children what they would want from the town. And the boys want the swords and the weapons. The girls want fine jewels and dresses. Belle wants a single rose. That's all she wants. And indeed, Belle is the Belle of her father's eyes. She's the youngest, and she's actually closer to Cinderella in a way in the original narrative, because she's very put upon. Her siblings see her almost as a slave type. So it's different from the word go, from having all of these characters, not just Belle. But indeed, father gets lost in the woods, as Disney puts it, and he seeks shelter in the Beast's palace, this fine palace, and there's a full spread of food on the table. Now, the prince does not have a fine coterie of enchanted object servants. That's Disneying all over the place. No, the Beast himself attends to Maurice. And it is only as Maurice takes a rose from the garden that the Beast stops.
Turns.
Yes, and this horrible violation of his beloved garden. And he says, in exchange, you must bring me your daughter. And Maurice is horrified and goes, he's let go. This is one of those, there's no dungeon, there's no Belle pleading for her father's life. It's very much more like I met this beast creature and...
I gotta bring you back.
Yeah, exactly. And so, after much back and forth, Belle agrees to stay with the beast. Whereas he hopes for a bride, however. This is just the way it's going to go. He wants a lovely young... She friend zones him right away. As one might.
To a beast, yeah.
Yeah. But he tries. He lavishes her with expensive gifts. He gives her an enchanted mirror. He gives her an enchanted ring that she can wear on her finger that gives her the ability to transport wherever she would like. So he's laying it on. He really is courting this girl hard. But Belle becomes homesick, despite his best efforts, you see. And he agrees to let her go. There's no big dramatic dance in the ballroom, I'm sad to say. And she sees Daddy stumbling to find her in the woods. Really, she's just homesick.
Yeah.
She misses her family. And the Beast lets her go, with the promise that she will return after 1 week.
1 week. So it's like
she's
furlough.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, take a vacation, but you're going to be due back here pretty soon, honey, because you're still mine. Dad took that rose and all, so
There's
sorry.
so much honor.
There is a lot of honor, but it's very in keeping. It's a French fairy tale.
Yeah.
It's of the time. Yeah. Disney took it from the time and made it our time. Not entirely, they still said it in France, but the morality has evolved, and the lessons you are to take out of it, which I'll get back to. But so Belle's home for a week, right? And she, being the good-hearted girl she is, wishes to share her love and her wealth, the things that the Beast has given her, with her siblings. She wishes to pass her dresses to her sisters, but the moment her selfish sisters touch the gowns go to rags.
Oh.
The moment that she tries to hand them the jewels are tarnished and they're no longer beautiful. The moment Belle takes them back, they're restored and they're hers again, because they were gifts from the Beast.
Okay.
They're not for anyone but her.
Is the Beast magic?
I guess in a way he is. But there's no enchantment of objects and all of the other things about it. But there's definitely, he is he's a bit supernatural, and it's not just because he's enchanted.
Interesting.
So, but the thing is, okay, all this stuff's happening at home, but oops, Belle forgets it's been longer than a week now. Indeed, it's been going on for a while. Like, she's just decided not to go back. Oopsie, sorry. Hey, Mirror, how's it going with my enchanted fur man? She decides to say one day. Not what she said, I don't read French. But I'd imagine it's something like that. And she is horrified to see him lying near death, dying of a broken heart.
But
because she did not keep her
was late?
It's been longer than a week. It's been like months.
Oh, man.
Girl, set a reminder on your phone, girl.
I know. But, like, also, he should be okay. Oh, wait, it's been months?
It's been a while. She just lost track of time.
Oh, Belle.
Yeah.
Belle, come on. Get your act together.
He's dying of a broken heart. There's no Gaston here, kids. There is no male suitor who stabbed the beast and now he's dying. There's none of that. So Belle's like, oh, shoot, he's dying and he was really nice to me. So remember that magical transporty ring that he gave her.
Yes.
She turns the ring 3 times and is magically back at the castle.
I want one.
I know, we all want one now. She begs him not to die, and as her tears fall on his face, he is transformed into a handsome prince.
Oh man, every woman's dream.
Oh, and such a fairy tale trope. It's like the quintessential fairy tale.
I can fix him.
Yeah.
He may be bad now, but I can turn him into a good guy.
Well, here's the thing, and this is my first strange but true. The original story, really, the story was written to prepare young girls of the 18th century for arranged marriage.
Dun, dun, dun.
Do you feel a bit betrayed?
I thought, no. Because,
are you surprised?
Because you know that's my jam. I mean, like, that's my area of, not my personal expertise, but.
I was never sold to a beast. It's fine.
I know. I know that thread.
Yeah,
I was about to say, okay, are you about to get all feminist on us?
Not entirely, but it honestly, it was prepared for that. It goes a long way to explain the whole learning to love a guy I was handed over by my dad.
That's it. And maybe he seems like a big scary furry monster now, but if you love him and cry, ask him nicely, he'll become a good man.
Yeah, he's a good man, and it's kind of the originator of that kind of line. A lot of things we talk about today, you can read a half dozen articles online or more about the whole Stockholm Syndrome idea.
Yes.
But I feel it's less that and more the core of this was preparing young girls for arranged marriage, man.
Yep.
Not to rip the gauze off of your Disney fairy tale here, but... so there are a bajillion adaptations of this story. It shows a bajillion, I counted. Theater, television, film. Disney, what Disney did best, that created a version that's almost entirely replaced pop culture's understanding of the tale. Like the Disney narrative is almost the one people immediately go to. Yeah. To the point of when I was 7 years old and wearing this shirt at my elementary school, to the point of when I would encounter Beauty and the Beast in other ways, I would be like, but that's not the story. Oh no, it totally is, okay? Disney put in your beeline characters like they do. One of the first adaptations I bumped upon in popular media, do you remember Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater?
Yes, I do.
And they were actually, not all the adaptations were super kid-friendly, even though it felt like they were supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I feel like my impression when I was watching that was like, they're messing with us. Like, they're really enjoying themselves.
And it really was a chance to give a lot of big name stars.
Is it the one where Pee Wee Herman was Pinocchio?
He was Pinocchio,
God.
And Ben Vereen was Puss in Boots.
Yes!
And yeah.
That's good stuff.
Oh, totally. I love it. I find it a bit more palatable as I've gotten older because I'm less scarred by certain things. But the Fairy Tale Theater episode was in 1984. And then there was a television series that survived from 1987 to 1989 starring Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman.
I did know this.
Which was it is not a one-for-one adaptation. First of all, we're set in New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like more of a lion-type creature.
I was going to say, what is he in that?
He is a lion-type creature who lives in the city tunnels. Not the sewers, let's be clear.
Like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
Well, I was going to say he's not in the sewers because there are mutant turtles down there.
Yeah.
So he must clearly just have his own network of tunnels that he goes through.
Solitary?
Yeah. He's like catacombs, like
the Phantom.
All I know is I've never seen these in New York, and I've wandered about a bit. They look cleaner than the sewers.
They all moved to Williamsburg.
God. Gentrified Beauty and the Beast. He's got a hipster stash. Anyway, so it took to 1991 for Beauty and the Beast, the animated film, to come out. And that's sort of, I'm going to get on a bit of a nerdy jag here, because really, to talk about the adaptation of Beauty and the Beast to the animated classic is to talk about Disney's evolution as well, because they were starting to come back into a second golden age as we were in the late 80s into the 90s. They had great success with The Little Mermaid. And they would go on to have fantastic success with Aladdin, with The Lion King.
Was Little Mermaid the first rebound?
In a lot of ways, yeah. Now, that said, they were starting to get their quality back up a lot. There were even like things like Oliver and Company, even though you tend to think of that as a lower animation quality. Really, it's just a great showcase for Billy Joel. Although we can talk adaptation on that too, because that's Oliver Twist.
Like Don Bluth was really competitive, right, at this time.
Absolutely, and he, as I'm recalling correctly, I don't have this in my notes, but he'd actually, in fact, worked for Disney for a bit.
Oh, right, I did. I remember that.
Yeah. But so we're in the second golden age for Disney. They had this great, really Snow White kicked it all off for Disney. And interestingly, after Snow White worked, Walt Disney went back to the well looking for fairy tales that they could similarly adapt. Beauty and the Beast was on his short list. He wanted to do it, but it was seen as too complex. It was seen as difficult to adapt. They had even done some concept art, as I've put here in my notes.
Is that out there for us to see? For us to Google?
It does exist somewhere. Also, especially
when was this? Like the 50s?
Yeah, this would have been, first they initially tried it because Snow White was 29. This was 1930 that they were originally thinking about trying to do Beauty and the Beast.
Oh my gosh.
They came back to it in the 50s.
Okay.
They tried it, and again, just wasn't working for whatever reason. It took until the 80s and 90s. And what they did that was so smart, up until then they had storyboarded their cartoons exclusively. They hired a screenwriter. This was the first time Disney hired a true screenwriter to do a true adaptation.
Yeah.
And then that screenplay...
That seems like a kind of obvious move,
seems like they hadn't, because you would think, cartoon, and I have a whole other soapbox I can climb on about how the Academy has separated animated films from Best Picture contention, and Beauty and the Beast was the movie that did that. But I'll get back there. The screenplay that was worked up was adapted into a lot of those tropes that we see in your classic Disney film now. But it really did take a step away from the original fairy tale. And I told you there was no Gaston. We eliminated all of Belle's siblings to simplify the story greatly. And they add this whole layer to kind of make the Beast more empathetic, make him flawed. Because he really was not a flawed creature as such in the original story. And then they also gave all sorts of opportunities for great Oscar-winning songs composed by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman. I have a whole thing for Howard Ashman. He was a fantastic lyricist, and he died way too young. He never got to see Aladdin completed. He saw the completion of Beauty and the Beast. And they say when they adapted Beauty and the Beast to the Broadway stage in 94 that he would have loved it. First of all, he would have been all over adding songs. Tim Rice took on that role when it came to the Broadway stage, who Menken had successfully worked with on Aladdin. So, I mean, Ashman had done some stuff for Aladdin, but he was ill at the time, so he never saw that completed. But anyway, so Beauty and the Beast, bringing it back, all of my Disney tangents are just going to run around. One of the other important things about the 91 film, this was Disney's real first strong foray into CG, integrating it into your animation. I know it was completely, you'd think cell animated. They were doing kind of modeling and graph work. Like the whole ballroom scene is sort of seen as emblematic of Disney's first, because not only, first we're following them in your very traditional animation sense, and then suddenly we spin away to the sky, and there's this amazing dome. Blew my little brain, certainly at 7 and 8 years old. But that was sort of a capstone of what had been an evolution starting even from Oliver and Company and The Rescuers Down Under, where they had modeled this more realistic motion going into their cell animation style, and is very much the progenitor of where we are now with things like, about to go there, Frozen. Because I was such a fangirl when I was a little girl, and by the way, I have a friend who needs to join us for the rest of this because I've been talking about Beauty and the Beast. This is my Funko Lumiere. He'll just be sitting here staring at you with those oddly dead black eyes. Because everything about that film thrilled me when I was a kid. And so when I hear parents complaining about Frozen nowadays and how everybody's doing Let It Go, okay, well, I had Be Our Guest. I was that same kid. That's just the way it was. And the way this is syncing up, Disney hasn't had a huge hit like Frozen since that golden era that we had in the early 90s. And they're following a very interesting track, too. We've got Frozen opening on Broadway this season in a very few short weeks. And it's almost the exact same amount of time. Beauty and the Beast originally, 91 film, 94 Broadway. We're talking about a 2013-14 movie now coming in 17. Disney moves this thing along when they know that it's going to be big. It was more of a gamble when they adapted for the stage, for Broadway, for Beauty and the Beast. It was a $20 million production. It was big, and it starred everybody's favorite Terrence Mann as the Beast, and of course it gave us Susan Egan, who to many people, and interestingly, she's about to go back in to play the role of Belle in a regional production. And I know, she's gonna play Belle again.
Well, good for her.
Yeah, well, and she also still reads like she's 20 or 22 years old. So
there's goals.
Hashtag goals. And there's one little footnote I have to throw on here because it did just happen. I mentioned in a previous episode that you all watched last week how Jerry Orbach's death, crushed my little heart in 2004. I would be remiss if I didn't close off talking about the adaptation of Beauty and the Beast without quickly mentioning we've just lost David Ogden Stiers, who is Cogsworth. My parents knew him from MASH, but for me, he's always going to be that little stuffy butler mantle clock. And also the narrator in the opening sequence.
That's right.
Yeah, because he did
there once. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Once upon a time in a faraway land.
That's right.
How did you feel about the 2017 live-action adaptation, by the way?
Well, it was a cool thing to take my kids to.
Yeah. How did they...
They liked it.
They did?
Yeah. Cool. My baby girl, just because the logistics of staying for more than 20 minutes in one place.
Oh, she was bored.
Yeah. Well, not bored, but just it wasn't engaging.
Yes.
To her. But my sons enjoyed it very much.
I'm asking very specifically because when my husband and I went to see it, and he of course knows of my Beauty and the Beast obsession from when I was quite little, he was like, so okay, people are going to bring their kids to this, but the people who are bringing their kids to this are your age, Kay. This feels like it was done for you.
Yeah.
And I said in so many ways, yes.
There was a payoff for those of us girls who had seen Belle in the animated film when the Disney princess was still a little bit of a damsel in distress and helpless at times, needing the help of a male figure. And there was a satisfaction in...
Oh, they gave Belle way more spine in the live action. Not that Belle was a step away, kind of a sensible step away.
They gave her... She had agency.
There's progression.
Yeah.
You needed to have a mid-step Belle to get to Emma Watson.
Yeah. Well, and her whole I Want song is about wanting more than this, and
Yeah. And the line with her, first of all, I also have to throw all the props in the world out to Kevin Kline because I
love Kevin
oh my
Kline
God,
so
they made,
much.
I'm sitting there going, I never thought of Maurice, I never thought Maurice would break my heart. In the animated movie, he is purely played for funny. Truly. I mean...
That's the dopey guy.
Yeah,
the dopey dad. Sitcom
dad. Old dad. We gotta go take care of Daddy. Daddy stumbled into the Beast Castle.
That's it. He can't
hijinks.
Get your stuff together, Maurice.
Yeah. He's a crazy...
That's the name that should be the name of this episode.
Get your stuff together.
Get your stuff together, Maurice.
What the heck? No country for Maurice. No country for old Maurice. That's no end
This
episode.
was a delight.
Oh my God, I love talking adaptation.
Yeah.
And I love still being on this set. And I think we have one more, at least one more episode on this set in us. Again, because we love this set, not because we could possibly only have a limited window of time with Juliana. That can't possibly be the reason. But yeah, there will be more fun, strange, and true facts to come. And I think we're about to get stranger and creepier in the next couple episodes.
We are.
I'm so excited because we're going to get haunted and we're going to get...
Murderous.
Murder most foul. So it should be a good time. Tune in next time. And I'm trying to figure out how to work Strange But True Dear into here, but all my brain wants to do now is say No Country for old Maurice.
Maurice, get your together.
Good night, Seattle. We love you. And we did it.